let's kick things off in Alabama.
So the movement in Alabama right now appears to be away from sports betting in a comprehensive gaming bill where it was moving along pretty well at the beginning of the session with all three pieces included, three pieces being a lottery. Alabama is one of the few states that didn't have one, sports betting, and casino gaming. Now, that passed quickly through the Senate, got to the House, and has met opposition, and it appears that whatever version of this bill passes the House, assuming it does, is going to end up in a conference committee because you're going to see a different version of the bill come out of the House. The intelligence out there suggests that the lottery is going to be the only piece of it that is going to survive this initial cut, that sports betting and casino gaming will go away. And for a state like Alabama that has a naturally conservative bent toward gambling and that has had no form of real gambling, it's not surprising to see some lawmakers want to take an incremental approach as opposed to going for the whole thing at one time. Frankly, we've seen very few states try to do everything at once. We saw Michigan do it fairly successfully, but again, that was after a failed attempt that passed the legislature and was vetoed by the outgoing governor. And we've seen Pennsylvania do something somewhat similar, even though there were casinos in place in Pennsylvania prior to that. So it's not dead for sports betting in Alabama at this point, but from everything that our Pat Evans, who has been covering this from top to bottom, has been hearing, it appears that sports betting in Alabama is a long shot for this year after it appeared to be maybe a 50-50 shot coming out of the Senate.
Brutal for our friends down there in the South. You know, Adam, this was one of those things where we were looking at a map and we were saying like, oh, okay, well, Alabama, whenever you look at the fact that Mississippi doesn't have statewide mobile yet, there's nothing going on in Georgia as well. We're like, oh, okay, well, Alabama, that's an interesting little spot for them. But unfortunately, as you mentioned, looks like maybe we are going to have to wait on them at least for another session.
And not surprising, really, just because of the fact that sports betting didn't exist at all, right? There was nothing in person, like Mississippi, as you mentioned, where they're trying to expand to mobile. And if you look at Mississippi as an example, it's taken yearly tries to even get to the point of a maybe on mobile in Mississippi after starting, frankly, as one of the first states to launch any form of sports betting through a loophole in a previous law that hadn't passed. So I don't think it's dead in Alabama by any stretch for the long haul. However, I do think it's a matter of the lottery getting passed this year. It could be added back in a later version of the bill, but again, considering the reticence that's been in the House, I would be surprised if 2024 is the year that we see it pass.